Welcome to the Fight Forum. My name is Andre Jacobs, and today, guys, we're discussing the big one. Not Khabib versus Tony. I know that you guys are really disappointed that we're not going to be able to see that fight. Well, not for a while anyway. But we have something, in my opinion, even better. We have Khabib versus Justin Gaethje. That is an incredible lightweight fight, guys. An incredible one, and you should be very, very excited. And if you're not excited, don't worry, because we're going to give you all the information you need to get you in the mood for some serious violence. So, the main emphasis since this fight came about has been, can Justin Gaethje handle Khabib's wrestling? And that's an understandable question to ask. Why? Because no one's really been able to handle Khabib's wrestling. You know, some people will say Al Iaquinta did a great job, and that is very true. But if we're looking at the overall spectrum, the overall career of Khabib inside the UFC, you just can't fuck with the man's wrestling. It's that good. It's that good. If you watch any of his fights, I would suggest you do. And if you don't have UFC Fight Pass, you definitely should get it. But if you watch any of his fights, you'll notice that he doesn't have a wide assortment of wrestling techniques, but what he does extremely well is chain them together. If you don't know what that means, that basically means if he doesn't win with a double leg, he'll go to the single. And if he doesn't go with a single, he'll go to the high crotch. And if that doesn't work, he'll go to another technique, and then he'll just rinse and repeat until you eventually go down. Have a look at the Conor McGregor fight. The importance of that first takedown and who comes out on top, it really sort of defines the fight. You see Conor trying to defend as exceptionally well, if we're being honest, but Khabib is relentless with the takedown, changing it up constantly, making Conor defend in different ways, and that is why he is, I would probably say, the most elite grappler competing in MMA today, competing in an MMA style of grappling, not just like, how Rodolfo Vieira in the middleweight division of the UFC is an accomplished, brilliant jiu-jitsu grappler. But if we're talking MMA specific grappling, Khabib is the guy. One of the techniques that I really love about Khabib, and man, I think it's another level. We're going to see this in a few years. We're going to see this particular move done by more MMA fighters in a few years, not just the Dagestanis, but it's the Dagestani handcuff. I'm a big fan of this because it's probably the one move in his skill set that I think defines his sort of smashing mentality, taking away an arm from an opponent so they can't defend themselves and just smashing them in the face with their other fist. It's an incredible move, one that is perfect for MMA, a move that he's put a number of opponents in. One of my favorite moves that Khabib uses is the Dagestani handcuff. Now, if you're a bit foreign to that and you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, just watch his fight against Edson Barboza. Personally, in my opinion, that's the fight where he really took Edson's soul away. He has a glassy look across his face as Khabib is smashing him with his fist. But you'll notice that his opponent will be in the turtle position, and he'll take the far side arm and get a grip around the fat area of his hand, of the opponent's hand, and he'll pull that up against their chest, so they've got one less thing to block punches from, and at that point he is absolutely smashing their face in with ground and pound. It's a brilliant move. It really defines his particular style of fighting. Another part of that would be the triangling of the legs. It's something I've utilized, well, attempted to utilize when I'm doing jiu-jitsu. It's very difficult, but for him, it's so useful because if he's able to trap his legs above the knee line of his opponent, very difficult for him to get away. So really, they only have their hands to try and block the punches, and Khabib has everything that he can do to land attacks. It's a really brilliant, fantastic signature move that he is the best at. The one thing I'm really interested in is how Khabib is going to deal with the death of his father, who, you know, it's one thing to lose a parent, but it's even more when you're losing a parent and your main coach as well. I don't know about you guys, but I was watching the Michael Jordan Chicago Bulls documentary that was on Netflix earlier on this year. What was it, the summer? I can't remember. But if you haven't watched it, please do. It's absolutely fantastic. If you're unaware of Jordan's story, his father was sadly killed, murdered really, and it had a dramatic effect on Jordan, which meant that he missed part of an NBA season. I can't remember exactly which one. But it's just an example of how if someone is close to a parent in that sort of way, it can affect them in extremely unpredictable ways. We all know that Khabib is a physical specimen. He's probably underrated in terms of his athleticism, but you always got to wonder what the mental aspect of it is going to be when he steps in the cage without the man. Really, it could very well be the first training camp he's had without his father behind him, pushing him along the way. So that's going to be an incredibly interesting little mental aspect of the game. Right, in regards to Justin Gaethje, if I had a friend of mine who wasn't aware of MMA or wanted to just see someone who is going to deliver some serious damage, I'd probably say that he's the guy that I would show them. He's a juggernaut, is the best way to describe him in my opinion. An absolute juggernaut of a man. He's an evolved juggernaut, if you will. So if you watched him during his World Series of Fighting career when he fought Luis Palomino, I go to the Luis Palomino fight specifically because I remember that fight vividly being knockdown drag out war, where Palomino was throwing everything he could at Justin Gaethje, and Gaethje just kept on moving forward and moving forward, attacking, leg kicks, punches, taking everything that Palomino could throw at him. But it wasn't enough. He was still there, he was still in Palomino's face, and eventually he broke him down. I believe Palomino's Peruvian, I believe he broke the Peruvian down. It was a scary fight to watch because this was in the early 2010s, if you will, and he was a frightening man, and we were all wondering what he was going to do when he finally got to the UFC. So when he got to the UFC and he was still undefeated and he was still using that particular style of fighting, we wondered how long it would last. I wondered how long it would last. Was someone going to catch him out? And we didn't see it with Michael Johnson, but we did see it with Dustin Poirier and Eddie Alvarez. These two fights in Justin Gaethje's career are extremely important. Why? Because it's the turning point from him being a somewhat reckless marauder to someone who uses this. Now, Justin Gaethje he's a very smart man in my opinion, especially when it comes to fighting, and he has good coaching. He has a good coach in Trevor Whitman, someone who is very experienced, very nuanced in the game, and very good with the fighter psyche. Gaethje has evolved into someone who understands his skills, understands his weapons fully, but isn't just going in gun blazing. He's taking his time, he's waiting for the opportunity, and then he just explodes and he crushes people. It's insane. So you watch the fight with James Vick, patient, throws a I believe it's a left to line him up when he's up against the cage, and then throws an overhand right that absolutely crumples him. You look at the fight against Edson Barboza, very similar. Edson Barboza is going against the cage, away from him, and Justin Gaethje jumps in with a right hook and just smashes him. It's absolutely beautiful. But if we're talking, it's almost like he's a musician who is trying to reach a crescendo, and it would be a shame if his crescendo was the Tony Ferguson fight, but if it was, he still delivered a fantastic performance. Why? That Tony Ferguson fight was perfect. Absolutely perfect. He was violent, patient, tactical, more tactical than anyone probably gave him credit for. And he is an exceptional fighter. The thing that people sort of talk about during this fight is the wrestling, and I think I brought that up earlier of how good Khabib is as a wrestler. Justin Gaethje is also a fantastic wrestler, but they use it in different ways. Obviously, we know how Khabib uses his wrestling, but Justin usually uses it more like Chuck Liddell used his wrestling, very sprawl and brawl, if you will. But it's a new version, it's an updated version. He's not brawling per se. Has he got it in him? Yes. But is he doing that now? No. This is sprawling, tactically brawl 2.0, and it's a really fascinating thing to watch. So Justin Gaethje said something very interesting on the Believe You Me podcast of Michael Bisping, and I don't want to mess it up, so I'm going to actually read this out to you. While a lot of analysts are focusing on the wrestling aspect, I totally understand why, Gaethje said something that really sort of helped me understand where his mind is at for this fight. He said, "There's going to be a zone in front of me. It's not very big. It's going to be a zone of death. And if I have to represent death every time he, as in Khabib, enters the zone, that's what I'm best at. Creating carnage, creating car crashes." I don't know about you guys, but that's fucking frightening. That is absolutely frightening. But it's the sort of mentality you need. It's the sort of mentality he needs to defeat someone like Khabib. For Khabib to do what he does best, he needs to get past what Justin does best. That's where the genius of this fight is. When we were all excited for Khabib versus Tony, it was because there was a question that we all asked. What happens if Khabib takes someone down who is a aggressive grappler off their back? That's what excited us. When it comes to Justin, you should still be excited, it's just that it's a different question. What happens when Khabib faces someone who is so powerful and dangerous and also has fantastic elite level wrestling? What happens when he tries to take them down? What happens when he goes inside the death zone? Very interesting. It's very interesting. Now, it's a difficult one, because who am I to really bet against someone who is undefeated? Khabib has shown time and time again that he is a fantastic grappler, a fantastic fighter, if you will. But there is something about Justin Gaethje. He is a man on the rise, and it's harder to stay champion than it is to be the contender, in my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of fighters will probably agree with that, especially a lot of champions. So I'm gonna go with the upset. I'm gonna go with the upset. Yep, put a gun. I know, guys, it's shocking. It is shocking. I'm gonna bet against Khabib. But there is something about Justin Gaethje, there is something about that Tony Ferguson performance, there is something about the measure of the man that says to me that he wants it and he's willing to go through fire and everything that Khabib has to get it. If you enjoyed this video, thank you very much. But please like, subscribe and comment. Let us know how you feel. We're always interested. And if you want some more content from us, please follow us on Instagram @The Fight Forum. Take it easy.